The Garden of Eden functioned as a hyper-curated, self-sustaining resort. Bathed in a perpetual golden spring, it was designed specifically as a private, insulated sanctuary, school for soul students to live in absolute safety. Living in that unearned perfection felt increasingly heavy to Eve. Because she and Adam were manufactured with pure divine innocence, she lacked the vocabulary to recognize manipulation. The daily routine offered zero friction, leaving her deeply restless. Then the serpent slipped inside. He crawled under the back border wall, exploiting an administrative loophole. The garden system identified him as an undocumented migrant and immediately granted him sanctuary status without any vetting process. The ultimate flaw in Eden's design lay exactly there. The danger came from the mandated ignorance of the garden's inhabitants, which left them completely defenseless against a seasoned, fast-talking con artist. The serpent approached Eve with a compelling pitch. He framed the forbidden fruit as a psychedelic shortcut to rapid self-mastery, promising that a single bite would grant her the godlike mystic vision that would normally take 1,000 lifetimes of soul school to achieve. Curious, observant tone. The immediate effects hit hard. Breaking open the fruit unleashed an electric, mind-altering high that overwrote their peaceful reality. Suddenly, they were thrust into hyper-awareness, perceiving the sharp duality of good and evil for the very first time. The high rapidly deteriorated into a brutal come-down. The golden glow of the garden turned into an interrogating spotlight, leaving them shivering and exposed, as the first real physical pain they'd ever known blossomed in their guts. The shortcut was a trap. Ingesting the fruit provided no actual enlightenment or spiritual evolution. It delivered a harsh chemical high that stripped away their ignorance while offering absolutely none of the wisdom required to survive without it. The Creator's booming voice echoed through the mountains, demanding an explanation. Operating with a newly fractured psychology, Adam and Eve immediately turned on each other, dodging accountability and pointing fingers at the serpent's sanctuary status. This diagram maps out the Creator's cold, administrative response to the transgression. Faced with a system security breach, he claimed total legal immunity. Instead of addressing the border flaw, the logic branches into victim blaming, citing their lack of discipline, before terminating at a final deportation order. The punishment flowing from that deportation order was immediate and absolute. Adam and Eve were banished past the border walls, and their offspring inherited a generational curse, ensuring their children would be born inherently vulnerable to the tempter's tactics. The expulsion played out like a clinical contract termination. The entire burden of spiritual evolution abruptly shifted off the Creator's desk and onto the unprepared shoulders of his former caretakers. Forced past the cherubim's flaming swords, they experienced violent whiplash. The soft, perpetual spring vanished, replaced instantly by cracking dirt, howling winds, and an unforgiving landscape of unyielding iron soil. They quickly discovered a terrifying jurisdictional boundary. The Creator bluntly informed them that his authority ended at the garden walls. They were standing in completely unregulated, unclaimed territory. They weren't alone in the dirt. The wilderness was already populated by weary, generationally exiled humans, ruled by fallen angels known as the Watchers. These towering figures taught the refugees how to survive by mastering metallurgy, weapons, and chaos energy. Outside the safety of the garden, peaceful cosmic laws carried zero weight. Adam and Eve stood with soft hands and empty pockets, watching a society build bronze spears and channel chaos energy, tools they didn't even have the vocabulary to name. Adam attempted to plant seeds stolen from Eden's storehouse, but the iron soil rejected them. The sacred plants were rapidly choked out by invasive, noxious weeds with hooked thorns, deliberately scattered across the wilderness by the serpent on his way out. The serpent reappeared, offering a new chemical escape route. He urged them to harvest those very weeds, specific pale mushrooms and serrated green leaves, to numb their physical aches and artificially recreate the lost peaceful bliss of Eden. Seeking relief from the harsh reality, they briefly succumbed to the substances. The drugs warped their perception, morphing the dry mud into a hallucinogenic, oversaturated mirage that draped a fake paradise over their desolate surroundings. For Adam and Eve, the mirage was easier to swallow than the dirt. When the reality of the wilderness became too heavy, they reached for the serpent's weeds to keep the bitterness from returning. Eve sat in the dirt, trying to recall the scent of the lilies, but the image was blurred by a chemical fog. The sharper she tried to look at herself, the more her mind slipped away into the serpent's loops. Adam dropped the grievance of their exile. Refusing to play the victim, he abandoned the futile effort to recreate a lost Eden and committed to integrating with the other settlements to build a functional civilization from the dirt up. This visualization traces the distinct choices branching out from their inherited vulnerability, known as original sin. The left path traps the soul in an endless loop of chemical escapism. The right path demands rigorous accountability, ascending a steep staircase of real-world lessons and tests. True enlightenment and divine status cannot be hacked, swallowed, or smoked. They must be painstakingly earned through intense self-discipline, taking full accountability and facing the unforgiving realities of the world head-on.